Hey everyone, welcome to a deep dive on something pretty fascinating, the psychology of color. We're going to really try to train our brains to master color theory. And this deep dive is extra special because we teamed up with Swido Production. They're an audio and visual agency, so they really know their stuff. We love the Mind Upgrade channel over on YouTube, especially their Creative Mind Designers Edition series. So today we're going to explore this super cool intersection of design thinking, psychology, and how all that relates to color theory. And to help us connect all the dots, we've got our expert here, who is a master at synthesizing information and revealing those little hidden connections.
It's great to be here. Color really is such a strong force in design. Understanding the impact it has on how we see things and our emotions is so important to create visuals that people really connect with.
Totally. It's crazy to think that design thinking, that process that's used to get the creative juices flowing, has been around since the 1950s. It's all about really getting the psychology of the user, and that has to be a key part of mastering color theory.
Absolutely. And it really pushes collaboration. Like, take the HPID school in Potsdam, Germany, for example. Teams of students from all different areas of study tackle real-world problems with a coach guiding them. It's like this total immersion experience where they really dive deep into the problem itself before they even start to think about solutions.
So it's not about just getting the answer,
Right.
but exploring all the possibilities.
Exactly. Let's say you're trying to design a solar-powered lamp for developing countries. Sounds pretty simple.
Yeah.
But it needs experts from all sorts of fields, like medicine engineering and even sociology.
Wow. I see how that would need a multidisciplinary approach. You'd have engineers figuring out the technical stuff, medical people giving advice about the best light for people's eyes, and sociologists making sure it fits the community's needs.
Exactly. And to bring it back to color, think about how the colors you choose for that lamp would affect whether people accept it, and how useful it is in different communities. You can't just use any color and expect it to work everywhere.
That's a great point. It really highlights how color can have such different meanings and emotional impacts in different cultures. Speaking of understanding users, have you ever gotten frustrated when a website just doesn't work the way you expect it to?
All the time.
There's a psychological principle for that, Jacob's Law. It explains why we get so thrown off when websites do things differently than we're used to.
Right, because we spend so much time online. We just expect things to work a certain way. When a website breaks those rules, it makes us work harder to figure it out.
And who wants to do extra work, right? So if we use Jacob's Law for color theory, it means we need to be aware of the usual ways color is used and use them in a way that feels familiar and makes sense to people. Like most people think green means go and red means stop on websites.
Exactly. Using color in unexpected ways can just confuse people and make them frustrated. And that brings us to another important principle, Hicks' Law. It's all about cognitive load. How much mental effort we use to make decisions. The more choices we have, the harder we have to think. Good design makes that mental effort smaller.
So are you saying that giving people too many color choices at once could actually overwhelm them?
Exactly. Think about those old clunky TV remotes with a million buttons compared to the sleek minimalist ones we have now. They didn't get rid of all the functions. They just moved them to the TV's interface. By making the remote simpler, they used Hicks' Law to reduce your cognitive load.
Wow, I never thought about TV remotes like that before. So instead of giving users a rainbow of colors, we should use color strategically to guide their attention and make decisions easier.
Exactly. And that reminds me of another concept, Miller's Law, which says we can only remember a limited amount of information in our short-term memory.
Okay, so how does that apply to color theory?
Imagine a website with a color-coded navigation system. If the navigation bar disappears when you scroll down, you have to remember what each color meant to find your way back. But if it stays visible, you're constantly reminded of those color cues.
So it's about giving people visual reminders to reduce how much they have to remember.
Exactly. It's about making things smoother and easier on the brain.
This is so cool. It's like all these psychology principles are connected. We've got Jacob's Law for consistency, Hicks' Law for managing choices, and Miller's Law for respecting our memory limits.
And using these principles with color can make a huge difference in how people experience your design.
So to really master color theory, we need to go beyond just understanding the color wheel and how colors work together. It's about understanding the psychology behind it and how it impacts the user's experience.
Absolutely. Just like a chef carefully picks ingredients to make a delicious, balanced meal, a designer has to carefully choose and combine colors to make something visually appealing and psychologically effective.
I love that analogy.
Mm.
And speaking of carefully selecting and combining things, you mentioned that design thinking has some key components that help break down the process.
Yes, there are 6 key components to the design thinking process: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and implement. We can use each of these for color theory too.
So when we empathize with our users, we're trying to understand their cultural background, their personal preferences, and how they might see different colors.
Exactly. And then we define the problem we're trying to solve with our color choices. Are we going for a calming atmosphere, a lively vibe, or something else entirely?
Then comes the brainstorming part,
Mm-hmm.
where we come up with different color combos and see how they work together. We can experiment with different palettes and see what gives us the feeling we want.
And once we have some ideas, we can make mock-ups and see how those colors look in context. We can test those with users to get their feedback and make changes based on what they say.
And finally, we implement our designs, bringing those carefully chosen colors to life and creating impactful experiences for our users.
It's a process where we're always learning and improving. We can keep getting feedback and testing to make things better, and that's especially true with color. The more we experiment and watch how it affects people, the better we understand color theory.
It's like a constant cycle of exploring, experimenting, and refining. And the more we do that, the better we get at using the power of color.
This might be getting a little ahead of ourselves, but you mentioned learner-centered environments earlier. What exactly are they, and how do they connect to all this?
Great question. Learner-centered environments are all about encouraging people to ask questions, make connections, and be independent. They really embody the spirit of design thinking, fostering curiosity and a willingness to experiment. And you know what's interesting? Studies show that these kinds of environments often help students think in more balanced ways.
So you're saying that encouraging exploration and experimentation might actually help people develop a more well-rounded way of thinking.
That's the idea. And that leads us to a really cool concept, Robert Sternberg's theory of successful intelligence. He says that intelligence isn't just one thing, but a mix of analytical, creative, and practical skills.
Interesting. So to be successful in anything, including mastering color theory, we need to develop and use all 3 parts of our intelligence. Exactly. Design thinking gives us a way to do just that. It encourages us to understand the user, come up with creative solutions, and test those solutions in the real world.
It's like design thinking is a workout for our brains, helping us build those mental muscles and become more well-rounded thinkers.
I love that. And it shows how learning and using design thinking can help us in every part of life. It can make us better problem solvers, better communicators, and even more empathetic people.
It's like design thinking is a secret weapon for success in the 21st century. Not just for designing products or websites, but for designing our lives, our careers, and how we interact with the world.
That's a great way to put it. It helps us become active creators, not just passive consumers of our experiences. But before we get too philosophical, let's get back to color.
Right. We talked about how color choices can affect the user experience, but we haven't really dug into the psychology of color itself. Like, how do specific colors make us feel different things, and what do they make us think of?
That's a great point. It's a really important part of mastering color theory. So let's look at some specific examples. Let's start with blue. It's often associated with calmness, trust, and stability. That's why you see a lot of banks and financial institutions using blue in their branding.
That makes sense. Like they're trying to project this image of being reliable and secure.
Exactly. Now think about red. It's a high energy color.
Yeah.
It makes you think of excitement, passion, even urgency.
Which is probably why it's used for stop signs and clearance sales. It grabs your attention and makes you want to do something.
Right. And then there's green, often associated with nature growth and harmony. It can have a calming effect and is often used to show sustainability and eco-friendliness.
I've noticed a lot of food companies using green packaging lately. It makes sense with that connection to nature and freshness.
It's all about using those subconscious associations.
Yeah.
And choosing colors strategically to make people feel and respond the way you want.
This is fascinating. So when we're picking colors for a design, we need to think about more than just how it looks. We have to consider the psychological impact those colors might have on the person seeing it.
Absolutely. It's about finding that perfect balance
Yeah.
where aesthetics and psychology work together to create a really powerful experience.
It's like we're trying to talk to the user's subconscious through color, sending those subtle messages that influence how they see things and feel.
That's a great way to put it. Now, let's not forget about cultural differences. Colors can have totally different meanings and associations in different cultures.
Oh, that's right. Like white. It often means purity and innocence in Western cultures. But in some Eastern cultures, it's associated with mourning.
Exactly. So if you're designing for a global audience, it's super important to research what those colors mean in different cultures to avoid sending any messages you didn't intend.
That's such an important thing to consider. It shows how much cultural awareness matters in effective design.
And it brings us back to that idea of empathy in the design thinking process. We need to look beyond our own cultural perspectives and try to understand how other people might see and experience our designs.
It's like we need to become cultural chameleons, adapting our designs to connect with different audiences.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about creating designs that are inclusive and respectful of everyone.
So mastering color theory isn't just about knowing the color wheel. It's about understanding the psychology, the cultural nuances, and how to use color strategically to create meaningful and impactful experiences.
Well said. It's about using the power of color responsibly and thoughtfully.
It's amazing to think how everything we've talked about today connects back to that YouTube series you mentioned earlier, Creative Mind Designers Edition on the Mind Upgrade. It's like they're trying to give viewers the tools and knowledge to unlock their creative potential and think differently about design.
Absolutely. And I think that's where the real magic is, in helping people become more aware and intentional creators.
It's about fostering a mindset of curiosity exploration and being willing to push the boundaries.
And that's something that can help us in all areas of life, not just in design.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for the power and complexity of color.
It's been great sharing these insights with you. And remember, learning about color theory never ends. Keep experimenting, observing, and refining what you know.
Great advice. And to our listener, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to see the world of color with fresh eyes.
And if you're looking to take your audio and visual design to the next level, be sure to check out Swido Production. They're the pros at bringing ideas to life through amazing visuals and soundscapes.
That's right. They've been a fantastic partner in helping us bring you this deep dive. And on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this colorful journey.
Until next time, keep those creative juices flowing.
It's amazing how when you look at color through psychology and design thinking, it opens up all these new possibilities.
It really does. It reminds us that color isn't just about aesthetics. It's like this powerful communication tool. It can influence how we feel, how we act, even how we make decisions.
And that's what makes mastering color theory so important for designers. We have to be aware of the messages we're sending with the colors we choose and make sure those messages fit with what we're trying to achieve with our designs.
Exactly. It's about creating that seamless experience for the user, where color works together with all the other design elements to make things easy to use and make people feel what we want them to feel.
Speaking of working together, we've talked a lot about individual colors. But what about when you combine them? How do different colors play off each other to create different effects?
That's where color harmonies come in. They're basically color combinations that create a sense of visual balance and make things look good. There are different types of color harmonies, each with its own special qualities and psychological impact.
So tell us about some of those color harmonies.
Well, one of the most common ones is the complementary color harmony. This is where you pair colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel, like blue and orange or red and green. These combos create a high contrast. It's a vibrant look that's often used to get attention and create energy.
I can see how that would be good for things like posters or website banners, where you want to make a big statement.
Exactly. Then there's the analogous color harmony. You use colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, like blue, green, and yellow. These create a more subtle and harmonious look, often used to make people feel calm and peaceful.
That makes sense. I can see that being perfect for like a spa or a yoga studio to create that relaxed vibe.
Right. And then you've got the triadic color harmony. You use 3 colors that are evenly spaced on the color wheel. This creates a more dynamic look. It's visually stimulating and often used to show energy and excitement.
It's amazing how much thought goes into choosing the right color combinations. It's not just about picking colors that look pretty together.
Absolutely. It's both a science, A&D, and art.
Yeah.
And the more we understand about color harmonies, the better we can use color to create designs that are visually appealing and have the psychological impact we want.
This has been such a fascinating look at color theory and how it connects to psychology, design thinking, and even cultural awareness.
Yeah.
It feels like we've covered so much, but I also feel like we've just scratched the surface.
There's always something new to learn about color. It's what makes it so exciting and rewarding.
What's really stuck with me through all this is that mastering color theory is a journey. It's not about memorizing a bunch of rules. It's about really understanding how color works and how it affects us deep down.
I couldn't agree more. It's about being curious, observing, and experimenting. And that journey can bring so much joy and creativity.
To our listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to start your own journey of exploring color. Keep experimenting, keep observing, and keep pushing your creative boundaries.
And don't forget the power of color. It can transform spaces, make us feel things, and even inspire us to take action.
Thank you so much for joining us on this colorful adventure. And a big shout out to Swido Production for their expertise and for working with us to make this happen.
Until next time, keep those creative colors flowing.